Welcome back to the Instagram Influencer Marketing Strategy course. In this session, we'll be talking about the different type of Instagram influencers. If you are going to be advertising on Instagram, it's very important that you know the different type of influencers because using different type of influencers will affect your results. Okay, it will affect your results. So I've gone ahead and drawn out a simple sketch about the different type of influencers, and then I will go ahead to explain step by step about how they will affect your result, the pros and cons of different type of influencers. All right. Now, we spoke about it in the last session. We spoke about it in the last session. A quick recap. I'm going to give a quick recap of what we spoke about in the last session. All right. Now we said we made it clear that Instagram influencers, the whole concept of Instagram influencer marketing works with influence. All right, it works in influence. It depending on how much influence your influencer has on their followers will determine how much influence you get. Now, if it's completely different when a stranger comes up to tell you this product is really good, you should buy it, and then when it's different, it's a different situation from when your friend comes to tell you this product is good, I've used it, go and buy it. Now, of course, you are going to be more likely to buy that product if the recommendation comes from a friend, someone you trust, or someone you know to one extent. All right. Now, the most influencers are able to build this type of connection with their followers. All right. Now, their followers have followed them for quite a while now, and they are interested in their content, and then they are interested in what these influencers do, and even more likely they are willing and they want to build a similar lifestyle to what these influencers have built online. Okay, what these influencers have built, and then this type of influence is what they are used to they is what you are able to capitalize on to convince your customers to buy from you using these influencers. Now, of course, there are different type of influencers. First of all, we have categorized them into what I call the micro influencers and the macro influencers. Now it's very simple. It means exactly what you see there. When you see micro influencers, it simply means the smaller influencer, and the macro influencers means the bigger influencers. I decided it would be best to categorize it into these two because it will give you more view on what we are talking about here. All right. As we go to further the line, you see there are what we call the personal influencers and the team slash meme pages on both sides. Of course, this is because even if we divide it into these two categories, these two types of influencers are going to fall under each category. So I made sure to do it that way so for better understanding. Now let's explain who the micro influencers are. Now, micro influencers are what we call the smaller influencers, right? I like to categorize them under they have less than 50,000 followers. I like to categorize it under that much following. They have less than 50,000 followers. That I usually prefer between 10,000 followers to 50,000 followers. Okay. Now, their advantages, they are what we call the pros and cons of using these different type of influencers. Now, the pros of using micro influencers, the first one you have to notice is that they are cheaper. Yes, they are smaller pages, they are smaller influencers, which means they don't have a lot of following online, so they are bound to be cheaper. Okay. Now, there are other advantages which can be more like um the returns on ad spend. Now, let me explain this. Now, when you reach out to micro influencers, what you notice is that these influencers don't tend to get reached out by companies a lot. Now, most companies will usually reach out to the bigger influencers because they have a lot of more following and they look more promising in most cases. All right. So they look more promising in most cases. So the influencers with about 100,000 followers to millions of followers are bound to get more people reaching out to them to for a collaboration, right? Now, these micro influencers don't get as much collaboration requests because they are still new into the thing, and then they don't have as much followers. Okay. Now, does this necessarily mean it's a disadvantage for you using micro influencers? No. Now, the reason for this is because um A micro influencer in this case now might actually give you more results because when you collaborate with micro influencers, it means there haven't been a lot of people who have been asking them to collaborate with them and do running advertisements for different companies. So, in the sense that if they haven't been working with a lot of companies, it's going to affect how much results you work with. Now, look at it statistically here. Now, the micro influencers haven't been reached out by a lot of companies, you get. So it means that they are fresh and then they are able to generate you results if you use them right. Now, the thing is the thing is, once you use a micro influencer who haven't been able to land a lot of collaborations, it means their customers haven't really bought much from them yet. All right, their customers haven't really bought much from their page, so they are new into advertising, and then there's a tendency that they will give you better results because one thing that happens is once customers see more and more advertisement, once followers see more and more an advertisement on your page, the those who are going to buy at the early stages, and those who aren't interested are not going to buy. And then after a while, your followers are bound to get tired of seeing ads over and over again. So which is why a lot of influencers tend to avoid irritating their followers with too many advertisements. Okay, so there's a tendency you might message an influencer and they tell you they are not interested in the collaboration, not because they don't want to do the collaboration, but they might have done a collaboration in the previous time, or they are in collaboration with another business, or they just don't want to keep putting a lot of ads in front of their customers. Okay, they don't want to irritate their followers. Now the word there is followers, they don't want to irritate their followers. So in this case, micro influencers can give you a lot of results because they haven't really advertised a lot. So they have potentials of giving you a lot of sales if you use them right. Okay. Now another thing is about micro influencers is micro influencers are just in the algorithm. Okay, they are just getting in the algorithm. So what happens is they tend to have, not in all cases though, this is not a general rule of thumb, but you should take note of it. They tend to have more, I would call, more engagement than a lot of bigger influencers. Now what I've noticed is as influencers grow, okay, the engagements they have tend to drop off. Now, this is because in the initial stages of their influencer journey, they probably had the chance to reply to almost all the messages they get from their followers, interact with their followers. But the more they grow, it means they have more followers, which means they have more DMs, they have more they have more collaboration requests, they have more people trying to get their attention. So after a while, they are not able to respond to all these people. So their engagement might drop off sometimes. Okay, their engagement might drop off sometimes. This is not all the time, but their engagement can drop off sometimes. Now, engagement is very crucial to determine how much results you can get from my influencer. So I recommend you take note of this. Now, another benefit is you will get response faster from micro influencers. Now, what this means is if you are going to DM a micro influencer and a macro influencer for a collaboration request, depending on how much they are able to manage their account, you are usually bound to get a faster response from a micro influencer. This is because they get less DMs than the macro influencers. The macro influencers have so many people in their DMs that they might not see your DM. All right. Now, of course, there's also the cons of micro influencers, which means first of all, you are not going to reach as much people as you are going to with the macro influencers. A macro influencer might have about 1 million followers, and someone with less than 50,000 followers. You are not going to compare how many people they are going to be able to reach. All right. Now, this means your results are also limited. No matter how good a micro influencer is able to perform, your results are going to be limited based on how much people they can reach. Okay, now this is going to be limited based on how much people they can reach. Of course, you can use a lot of micro influencers in the process, and later in the course, I will show you how to track the data from all your influencers. Now, the next one we are going to be explaining is the macro influencers on the other end, and then the benefits and the cons of using this method. Now, the macro influencers, the first number one and most obvious benefit is the reach. Now, your macro influencer has a lot of followers, so you are bound to reach more people. And then the more people see your product, the more your chances of getting better results. All right. Now, if you are advertising, you know that advertising can be, or rather, it's a game of numbers. The more people you advertise your product, you put your product in front of them who are interested in this product, the more your chances of making a sale. All right. Now, if you put your product in front of 1,000 people who are interested, who you believe are interested in your product, and in front of 100 people, you are bound to get more results from 1,000 people. All right. Now, another advantage is repetition. Now, usually the macro influencer has been in the game longer than the micro influencer. So it means they've been able to build more trust and repetition in that niche, which sometimes can reflect in having more influence on their followers than the micro influencers, all right? Which sometimes can mean having more influence on the followers than the micro influencers. And another thing mean in return, which means they can give you better results sometimes. Now, depending on the influencer, of course, a lot of factors that are going to affect your results, as I said, the major things are influence and engagement, of which we will talk about later. All right. Whether it's a micro influencer or a macro influencer, influence and engagement are the major factors that are going to be required to give you results, not the number of followers. All right. Not the number of followers. So, on the other hand, the cons of advertising with macro influencers is, if you're working with an influencer a macro influencer, there's a tendency that they do a lot of collaboration, which means their customers have probably seen a lot of advertisement, and then there are not so many people buying anymore. This is why want to explain as the law of diminishing return. It means the no after a number of time, the results of which an ad is able to bring drops off depending on how many time the customers, your potential customers, have seen it. And then once they've seen it over time, those are interested are going to buy in the first couple of times, and then your ad is going to go numb after a while because they've already seen the product and they are probably not interested anymore. All right. Now, it's this can reflect in lesser result than you expect sometimes, but of course, as I said, a lot of these things that are not dependent on how many followers they have, it depends on influence and engagement of the influencer.